Your Mazda has 15 buttons that most owners never press, not because they are hard to find, because nobody told them what pressing them actually does. One of them holds your brakes at a red light without your foot. One of them restarts your engine 30% faster than any other car on the road. And one of them changes how your car corners, steers, and accelerates with a single press. Most owners find that last one by accident, years in. Today you find it in the next 6 minutes. Let us go. Number 15. The I-stop button. There is a button in your Mazda with a capital A and a small circle around it. Most owners press it once, watch the engine cut out at a red light, panic, and immediately press it again. Then they leave it off forever. That is a mistake. Mazda's I-stop system is one of the most advanced engine idle stop systems fitted to any mainstream vehicle. Most stop-start systems use the starter motor to crank the engine back to life every time you pull away. That process takes around 500 milliseconds and produces a noticeable lurch that most people find mildly irritating. Mazda's I-stop does something completely different. Instead of using the starter motor, it restarts the engine by injecting fuel directly into a cylinder that is already in the optimal piston position and igniting it. The combustion pushes the piston down and starts the engine from the inside. According to Mazda's own technical documentation, this restart takes approximately 350 milliseconds. That is around 30% faster than a conventional starter motor restart. The result is so smooth that most passengers do not notice the engine stopped at all. Over a typical commute, the engine cuts out and restarts dozens of times. Each restart saves a small amount of fuel. Over a year of daily driving, those savings produce a measurable difference in running costs. The button does not break your engine. It does not wear out your starter. The I-stop system has its own dedicated restart mechanism designed to handle thousands of cycles across the life of the vehicle. If you turned it off in week 1 and never touched it again, turn it back on. Give it a week. You will stop noticing it entirely. And then you will get into another car and wonder why it feels so slow and clunky pulling away from every light. The next button is one that most owners sit beside every single drive without ever pressing. When you hear what it does, you will wonder how you manage to commute without it. Number 14. The auto hold button. Look at your center console. Somewhere near the electronic parking brake there is a button labeled auto hold. On most Mazda 3, CX-5, CX-30, and CX-50 models from 2019 onwards, it sits right beside the EPB switch. Most owners have no idea what it does. Here is what it does. You brake to a stop at a red light. You press auto hold. The standby indicator light comes on. From that point forward, every time you come to a complete stop, the brakes hold automatically. You lift your foot off the pedal. The car stays perfectly still. No rolling, no creeping, no foot fatigue. When you press the accelerator, the brakes release and you drive away normally. In heavy stop-and-go traffic, this changes everything. Your right foot is not constantly pressing a pedal. Your leg is not tiring on a long commute. On a hill, you do not need to balance between brake and accelerator to stop rolling backwards. According to Mazda's owner manual, auto hold is specifically designed for use while stopped in traffic or at traffic lights. It is not a parking function. It is a driving aid that removes one of the most repetitive physical tasks in daily driving completely. One important detail: auto hold does not stay on between drives. Every time you restart the car, you press the button again. Mazda built it this way deliberately. They did not want drivers jumping from a Mazda into an older car and assuming the brakes would hold themselves. The reset is a safety decision, not an oversight. Press it at the start of every drive. One button. The difference in how relaxed you feel at the end of a commute in traffic is genuinely noticeable. If that button surprised you, hit the like button right now. It helps more Mazda owners find this video before they spend another year driving with auto hold off. And the next button is one that most owners switched off the first time it beeped at them and never touched again. Switching it off was the wrong move. Number 13. The lane departure warning button on the steering wheel or indicator stalk on most modern Mazda models. There is a button for the lane departure warning system. Depending on your model, it may be labeled LDA, LDWs, or LS. Most owners know it exists because it beeped at them once when they drifted towards a lane marking. Some turned it off immediately. Others left it on but never explored what it can actually do. The system has two separate functions that work differently. Lane departure warning alerts you when you drift across a lane marking without signaling. It is reactive. It tells you after the drift begins. Lane keep assist does something more active. When engaged, it applies gentle steering inputs to guide the car back toward the center of the lane before you have fully left it. It is not autopilot. It is a nudge in the right direction at the right moment. Both can be configured separately through Mazda Connect settings under I-activsense. Sensitivity is adjustable. You are not locked into the factory default. For motorway driving, having Lane Keep Assist active alongside Mazda Radar Cruise Control creates a noticeably more relaxed experience. The car maintains its speed relative to traffic and gently keeps itself centered in the lane. The fatigue that builds over 2 or 3 hours of motorway driving reduces significantly. Most owners never give it a proper chance because the first alert startled them. Configure it for how you actually drive, then give it a week. And number 12 is one that almost everyone misunderstands. Getting it wrong means the button is useless exactly when you need it most. Number 12, the DSC off button dynamic stability control. Every Mazda has it. Most owners have never intentionally touched the button that controls it. The DSC off button sits on the lower left of the dashboard near the steering column on most models. Press it once, and you get a completely different result from pressing and holding it. Most owners do not know that. A single press disables traction control only, the part of the system that reduces engine power when the driven wheels begin to spin. The DSC indicator illuminates on the dashboard. Press and hold for 5 seconds, and you disable dynamic stability control itself, the broader system that monitors wheel speed, steering angle, and lateral acceleration to keep the car tracking correctly. The DSC off light stays on until you press the button again or restart the engine. For everyday driving on dry roads, you want DSC on. It is doing useful work on every corner and every wet surface, but there is one specific situation where cutting traction control is the right call. If your Mazda is stuck in snow or mud, traction control actively works against you. It cuts engine power the moment a wheel spins, exactly when you need that power to rock the car free. One press of DSC off disables traction control and lets the wheels find grip the way you need them to. This is confirmed directly in Mazda's own CX-30 owner manual, which specifically recommends disabling traction control when the vehicle becomes stuck. One button press. Most people call roadside assistance instead. Drop a like if you have ever been stuck and did not know this, because number 11 is sitting right beside it on most models, and most owners treat it exactly the same way. Number 11. The BSM off button blind spot monitoring. The amber light in your door mirror when a vehicle enters your blind spot. On models with a physical BSM off button, which includes the Mazda 3, CX-530s, and several others, pressing it disables both the blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert simultaneously. The BSM off indicator light in the instrument cluster confirms the change. Most owners have this button in the dashboard switch pack and have never deliberately pressed it. The most practical use case is towing. When a Mazda genuine trailer hitch with electrical connection is attached, Mazda's documentation confirms the BSM system automatically disables because the trailer structure interferes with the rear radar sensors and trigger constant false alerts. Knowing the manual process gives you control over when it turns off and back on. The second use case is driving in very narrow multi-lane traffic where BSM warnings trigger continuously from stationary objects alongside the road. A brief manual disable stops the alert fatigue without changing any settings permanently. Press it again to re-enable. The system status is maintained when you switch the ignition off, so it returns to whatever state you left it in on the next drive. And number 10 is not a separate button at all. It is a function hiding inside a control you use every time you park, but you have probably never used it the right way. Number 10. The reverse mirror tilt control, not a dedicated button. A function of the door mirror control switch that most owners have never used correctly. Before you reverse, look at the mirror selector switch on your driver's door panel. It chooses left or right mirror. Whichever side is selected when you shift into reverse, that mirror automatically tilts downward to show the curb line, the parking marking, and the ground directly alongside the rear of your car. This is confirmed in the CX-30 and Mazda 3 owner manuals. When you pull forward out of reverse, the mirror returns to its normal position automatically. Most drivers leave the selector on the passenger side, which is correct for curbside parking. But if you are reversing into a tight space with a wall on the driver's side, switching the selector to the left mirror before engaging reverse gives you a ground level view of that side instead. 2 seconds before you reverse. One switch movement. A completely different picture of what is alongside the rear of your car. Drop a comment if you have been reversing without knowing this was there the entire time, because number 9 is doing something useful on every single night drive you have taken, quietly. Automatically, and most owners accidentally turned it off once and spent months wondering why their mirror seemed brighter at night. Number 9. The auto-dimming rear view mirror button on Mazda models fitted with an auto-dimming interior mirror. There is a small button on the bottom face of the mirror. Most owners have never deliberately pressed it. The function works automatically. A sensor at the front of the mirror reads ambient light. A sensor at the rear detects headlight glare from vehicles behind you. When glare is detected, the electrochromic layer inside the mirror darkens to reduce the reflection into your eyes. The button toggles this on and off. Press it and the indicator light goes out. The mirror stays at full reflectivity regardless of what is behind you. Press it again and auto-dimming resumes. Most owners have had this running in the background since they bought the car. Some accidentally pressed the button, turned it off, and spent weeks wondering why night driving suddenly felt brighter without connecting the two events. Mazda's documentation notes that the auto-dimming function cancels automatically when you shift into reverse. When reversing, you need full mirror brightness to judge distance. The system accounts for this without any input from you. One practical note: Mazda specifically advises against using glass cleaner on the mirror face or placing anything near the front sensor. Either can affect how the sensor reads ambient light and cause the auto-dimming to behave inconsistently. And number 8 is something most owners do manually every time they park, one mirror at a time, without realizing there is a single button that folds both simultaneously. Number 8. The mirror fold button on models with power folding mirrors, including various CX-5, CX-30, Mazda 3, and CX-50 specifications. There is a dedicated fold switch on the door panel that most owners overlook or confuse with the mirror adjustment controls. Press it once and both exterior mirrors fold inward simultaneously. Press it again and they return to the driving position. On some models, Mazda's documentation confirms the mirrors fold automatically when the ignition is switched off and unfold when it is switched back on. This can be configured through Mazda Connect settings on compatible models. The value is clearest in tight urban parking, narrow car parks, and street parking where wing mirrors are at risk from passing vehicles or other doors swinging into them. One press before you walk away, both mirrors protected. Some owners park in tight spaces daily and manually fold each mirror individually, not realizing the fold switch handles both in a single press. Check your door panel for a switch with a mirror icon and inward pointing arrows. It is separate from the directional adjustment controls. Subscribe right now if this is the kind of content you want every week. Because number 7 is a master override that most owners have never touched, and the one situation where you genuinely need it will make you glad you knew it existed. Number 7. The I-activsense off-switch a master override for multiple safety systems at once. It sits on the dashboard of most modern Mazda models, and most owners have never deliberately pressed it. Pressing I-activsense off temporarily disables blind spot monitoring, rear cross-traffic alert, and on some models, additional safety alerts simultaneously. According to Mazda's CX-90 documentation, pressing it again returns all covered systems to their previous status. If you switch the ignition off while systems are disabled, they automatically reactivate the next time the vehicle powers on. The most practical use case is a car wash. Rear radar sensors trigger BSM alerts continuously when stationary brushes and equipment pass close to the rear of the car. One press before entering an automatic car wash prevents a sequence of warning sounds and flashing lights throughout the wash cycle. Temporary. Reversible. Single press resets itself. Knowing it exists means next time your mirrors start flashing inside a car wash, you are the person who calmly presses one button, not the person sitting through 3 minutes of warning, sounds wondering what to do. And number 6 is on your steering wheel right now. Most owners use about a third of what it can actually do. The part they skip is the part that saves the most time on every long drive. Number 6. The radar cruise control. Cancel and resume Mazda radar cruise control is operated from the steering wheel. Set it, and the car maintains a set speed while automatically adjusting to the vehicle ahead, slowing in traffic and resuming speed when the road clears. Most owners who use cruise control know how to set the speed and switch the system off entirely. What almost nobody uses correctly are the cancels and resume functions. Pressing cancel on the steering wheel suspends cruise control without switching it off. The set speed stays in the system's memory. Pressing resume returns the car to exactly that speed without any re-entry. This matters every time you come off cruise control briefly for a roundabout, a junction, or a section of variable speed limit and want to return to the previous setting immediately after. Most owners press the system off entirely, re-engage it, and dial back to their preferred speed. Resume does all of that in one press the moment the road clears. On models with stop-and-go functionality, the system brings the car to a complete halt in traffic and resumes automatically when the car ahead moves. Resume in that scenario reactivates the system after it has held the car stationary longer than the auto-resume threshold. If you have been resetting cruise control from scratch every time you hit a roundabout, hit the like button, because number 5 is going to save you time on every single drive, and the shortcut has been sitting on the console the whole time. Number 5. The Commander Control Shortcut Buttons. The Commander Control is the dial in the center console that handles most infotainment interaction. Most owners use the dial itself. Almost nobody uses the shortcut buttons surrounding it correctly. Those buttons include a navigation shortcut, a music shortcut, a home button, a back button, and a favorites button marked with a star. The favorites button is the one almost no one touches. It saves whatever is currently displayed. A destination, an audio source, a settings page, as a favorite retrievable with one press from anywhere in the menu. Frequently used destinations and sources can be stored here and accessed without navigating multiple menu levels while driving. The whole design principle behind the Commander system was to minimize the time a driver's eyes leave the road. The 8x study conducted by Germany's largest motoring association rated the Mazda 3 3 infotainment as one of the safest in its class, specifically because physical controls allow interaction without looking at the screen. The shortcut buttons extend that advantage. Navigation in one press, audio in one press, favorites in one press. Most owners navigate 3 menu levels to reach the same places every time, and number 4 is doing something similar with your display. If it is not set correctly for your height and seating position, the whole feature is almost useless. Number 4, the active driving display adjustment. The active driving display projects speed, navigation instructions, and driver assist alerts onto a panel that rises from the dashboard in front of the driver. On models with this feature, there is a brightness adjustment, which is a small rocker or a Mazda Connect setting that most owners set once at the start and never revisit. The problem is that the correct brightness for direct morning sunlight is very different from what you need at night. A display calibrated for daytime becomes distracting after dark. One set for night is invisible in the sun. On some models, brightness adjusts automatically with ambient light. On others, it is manual. Knowing which applies to your car means you are never squinting at an invisible display or distracted by one that is too bright. There is also a height adjustment for the projected image. It should sit naturally in your forward sight line from your actual preferred seating position. This is configured through Mazda Connect vehicle settings. Most owners never adjust it from the factory default, which was set for an average driver height, not necessarily theirs. 2 minutes of setup, a display that is genuinely useful every time you sit in the car rather than one you ignore because it is always slightly in the wrong place. Number 3 is one that most owners skip after inflating their tires, which is exactly why the warning light stays on and they assume something else is still wrong. Number 3, the tire pressure warning reset. After inflating tires to the correct pressure, the tire pressure monitoring system still needs to be reset to register the new baseline. Most owners do not know this step is required. The reset is in different locations depending on the model. Some Mazdas have a physical button below the steering column. Mazda Connect models handle it through the settings menu. Either way, skipping this step means the TPMs retains the old baseline and may not alert correctly to a future pressure loss. The process is simple. Set all 4 tires to the pressure specified on the door jamb sticker or in the owner manual. Locate the reset button or menu option. Hold it with the ignition on until the TPM's indicator blinks twice. That confirmation means the system has registered the new pressures. Mazda's TPMs monitors the relative rotation speed of each wheel rather than direct valve sensors. It detects a pressure drop by noticing one wheel rotating differently from the others. Resetting gives the system a fresh reference point. Most drivers inflate their tires, see the warning light stay on, and assume something else is still wrong. Some book a dealer appointment. The reset takes 30 seconds and the light goes off immediately. And number 2 is one of the most overlooked controls on the wiper stalk. Most owners have never pushed it once. Every time they needed exactly what it does, they did something that took 4 times as long. Number 2, the wiper mist function. At the top of the wiper stalk, above the intermittent and continuous settings, there is a position called mist. Push the stalk briefly upward and release it. The wipers make one single pass and stop. One wipe, no continuous operation. No cycling through speed settings searching for a single pass. The practical value is immediate. A light dust coat before pulling out. A single splash from a passing vehicle. Morning condensation needing one quick clear. One push upward on the stalk and the screen is clear. Most owners in those situations switch the wipers on at the lowest setting, watch them make 3 unnecessary passes, and switch them back off. The mist function does the same thing in one gesture and stops immediately. It also works when the wipers are already running. Pushing the stalk up briefly adds 1 extra wipe cycle on top of the active setting, useful when you drive through road spray and need an immediate extra clear without adjusting wiper speed. On models with rain sensing wipers, mist operates independently of the sensor. One push gives 1 wipe regardless of what the sensor would have triggered. And now we are at number 1, the button that has been in your center console since day 1. The one that does not just change how fast your car goes, it changes how it corners, how it steers, and how every input you make actually feels. Most owners have never pressed it once. Number 1, the driving mode button. Every current Mazda has driving modes: normal, sport, and on some models off-road. The button is on the center console on most models or accessible through Mazda Connect on others. Most owners buy their Mazda, leave it in normal mode, and stay there for the entire time they own the car. They assume sport is aggressive, harsh, or bad for fuel economy. None of those things are accurate. In sport mode, throttle response becomes more immediate. The transmission holds gears longer before upshifting. Steering weight increases. The car feels noticeably more alert under exactly the same road conditions that felt smooth and comfortable in normal mode. These are not cosmetic changes. They are calibration changes to how the powertrain, transmission, and steering physically respond to your inputs. Mazda engineered sport mode to meaningfully alter the driving experience. On models with G Vectoring Control Plus, standard across most of the current lineup, sport mode adjusts how the system distributes torque through corners. The car does not just feel different, it handles differently. Turn-in is sharper. The car feels more planted and more responsive to your hands. The fuel economy concern is real but minimal. Sport mode does not force you to use more throttle. If you drive as you normally would, the difference in consumption is small. What changes is the response to inputs you are already making. One press, the car Mazda actually designed and intended, sitting in your center console right now. Drop a comment telling me which of these buttons you are pressing first. I want to know how many of you have been driving with auto hold switched off this whole time. Want to see the 15 things Mazda owners should never do to their car? Click on the video on the left. And if you do not want to miss more Mazda tips and secrets every week, hit that subscribe button and join us for the next one. We will see you there.